True Self Worldwide Meditation Energy Session today with the special subheading, the inner equinox. Yeah, finding inner peace, finding the middle ground, perhaps for some of us even becoming aware of our inner conflicts, yeah, and how these can sometimes stun us, how they can put us into a place of passivity or even apathy. Yeah, a workshop concerning the subject of apathy we had here last week, and we're continuing it on Monday with the second part. What is that actually? Yeah, that keeps us in that place of non-action. So during this session, this Connect with Your True Self energy session, myself and a group of energy healers that are trained help out with holding the field. We're reading the field for you. And in this live meet, we are trying to summarize, we're trying to translate it for you. And this was quite an interesting session. So if you had difficulties perhaps, if you felt rushed, if you felt disconnected or somehow had issues with loud neighbors or anything that kind of disturbed, your intention to spend this hour with yourself, then you're in good company. Okay, yeah. So there was quite a bit of resistance here, and because it is the equinox, yeah, the equal day event, yeah, the cosmic event where daylight and nighttime hours are the same no matter where you're at on the planet. Yeah, we are reminded, to look into this inner equilibrium between what we're feeling, what we're thinking, perhaps sort of the drive, to do something, to change something, but then also the need for security, the need to keep things the way it is. Yeah, maybe also the conflict between our spiritual thinking and our material thinking, just in general. Yeah, this sort of back and forth between I am a soul with a body, like a spirit being that is having a physical experience, and then getting caught up in, well, I am having a physical experience, and oh yeah, I do have a soul too. Yeah, the thing that we, or most of us, energetically sensitive, spiritually interested, consciously aware people struggle with the most is, how can I hold my spiritual awareness and how can I translate it? And this is what came forward here as sort of the biggest resistance in this session. So just real quick as a reminder, my name is Jona Bryndis. I've been doing this among many other other courses and sessions, and guiding people through their spiritual awakening process. But I'm doing this particular session, Connect with Your True Self, for over 13 years now, and I can tell you that so much has changed in these last 13 years of doing these sessions. Yeah, and sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we forget how much on the outside is evolving and is changing. And right now, we all find ourselves in a place where we can't deny that things have changed. But we're sort of still struggling with catching up. And we discussed this here during the session, among those co-facilitators and I, who were holding the field for you. That what is it actually that we feel like we have to catch up with? And why are we so conflicted? The things that we are conflicted with is that we are all feeling an impulse for something new, for trying to overcome, in some of our cases, heal the past, decoupling ourselves from these old values, these old thinking structures, and all that comes with that. But at the same time, also try to hang on to them. And this is the part here that we felt during the session. We're basically trying to catch up with ourself, with our true self. Our true self, not sort of your true colors, but the part in you that is the real self, the real you, that came here to have this physical experience, to grow, to evolve, and not just in an abstract way, but also in a quite sort of practical way, into the truer you, the higher version of you, the higher self. So the true self is kind of like the mediator. It's the current version, that you are working with. And then the lower self, if you want to just simplify it a little bit, is your ego self that keeps pulling you into your material existence, into your desires, into your physical needs. And from an energetic or from a spiritual point of view, this conflict, accompanies all of us throughout all our incarnations, not just in this one. But there is something very unique that is occurring right now that I can say, at least from my own studies, that has never happened before. And some of that has to do with the pace in which things are developing, the pace in which future is created. It's also got to do, of course, with the amount of information and the amount of impulses that we receive in our day-to-day life. That has never been there before in this way. And so there's a new sort of clock, if you will, not the one that has to do with the time change that humans sort of agreed to, messing around with the daylight hours, not that one, and not even the one that has to do with, the sun and the moon and the day and the nighttime hours, but a clock that seems to be ticking faster. Like this inner clock of wanting to bring something out of ourselves. This is something that we call our I am awareness. And has to do with our higher self. This sort of push, to grow, this push to evolve, there's a force in us, that wants us to step up now. And the hard part about this, for especially our age group, we've been around this live corner here a few times, is that the outside, the outer, the external life, except for maybe media and internet and so forth, but the external life seems to still sort of pull us into the past, be it our societal values, our cultural values, even our physical values, they pull us into the past. How we've always done this, how it's supposed to be done, and so forth. So we experience this dichotomy in us between feeling the push forward and the pull backward, and the the question now for all of us seekers, trying to find this inner equinox, this inner equilibrium, is what to do in times like this. Are we just watching? Are we just waiting and watching future happening? Or do we want to engage? Do we want to actively participate and bring parts of ourself, parts of our own sort of rendering of what progress, what future, what growth and evolution mean into this new future? And during this session, so let me back up a little bit here. During the session, we noticed a very strong physical resistance. I'd love to hear from you if you guys experienced this as well. Give me like a thumbs up or something. Pain in the neck, sort of the stiffness, a lower back pain, hip pain, things that have to do with our sort of skeletal structure, almost like physically holding us back. This is often a sign that we have issues with moving forward. So we read out the field. It's not that we come in with, knowing what is going to be the issue. There's this blank canvas, and we start the session, and we feel, this resistance in each of us. You're almost 100 participants from all over the world, and that's where the energy is stuck. So there is a strong inner impulse right now to think into the future, to move into the future, but also a material, a physical resistance that is holding us back. And so the question arose very early on in the session, how to break through this barrier, how to break through this. And now I'm coming back to our inner equilibrium. Well, before we can approach sort of change or new future, as I called it earlier, we first have to establish what the barrier is. What is it that we need to break through? What is it that is holding us back? That is holding us back from engaging, from participating with creating our new future? What is holding us back? And for the most part, reading out our conjoined energy fields, what we could see was that it's primarily our old ways of thinking. And because our old ways of thinking are so conflicted with all these insecurities, with these new things that we have to contend with, what am I relating to when I say new things? For example, the pace. That is a new thing. Oh, that's funny. That it changed my background here. There's lots of new things that we need to contend with, and these new things force us to rethink. They force us to go into a place where we can reinvent ourselves, basically. We have to be willing to enter our future with a new compass, with a new sort of way of approaching how we, and now comes a word that was a little tricky during the session, how we want to interpolate, how we can envision that which we are bringing into, manifestation through our thinking structure. That is the core of our inner conflict. And I know that this sounded very abstract, but really what I'm trying to say is that if we really want things to change, if we want our future to change, let's take very simple examples. Like say you want to change your job, or you want to change the way you make money, or you want to change the people that you're with. You want to change the place that you live. You want to change, the relationship that you're in. Okay? The first thing, that you need to investigate, or that you need to question, is what is holding you in there. Now, what it is that keeps you staying in a situation or job or relationship or place that is not conducive for you, that is not promoting growth, that is not sort of supporting you, in naturally sort of unfolding new future. And for most of us, it is the past, guys. For most of us, these old thinking structures, they all have to do with the past. And I don't want to go into the psychology of it, because we do so many workshops and courses and daily sessions here at transCODES where we can discuss this. I just want to bring this back into your awareness, that it is you believing that things have to be in a certain way. And when it comes to creation, when it comes to co-creating, a future, when it comes to actually changing something big in your life, then you have to recognize that what gives all of that form, what manifests, the power that manifests your future, is the way you think, the way you imagine, the way you intuit things. And the past has sort of a grip on that by feeding you with, you guys are all familiar with this, your negative inner self-talk, your critical inner voice, all these recordings from childhood, all these things from, how our culture, how our society, has programmed us with. And that's the part that we now need to be willing to break through. We need to be willing to become a real-time human, a real-time self. And that means that because there are no new trodden paths, if you will, there is no new sort of structure that we can rely on. This is exactly what change means. You have to walk the path yourself and walk it often enough so that it becomes a road, so that it become a highway, so that it can become, something that you just sort of naturally walk. And that is what I mean with real time. You have to be willing to explore this uncharted territory with all that you have learned from the past, with the wisdom that you have gained from the past. You see the past not as a burden, but as sort of your treasure, your tools that you're carrying around with you. And even if it is just based on what you don't want anymore. And trust that the person that you have become, through your past, that is the person, that you can trust. Not the person when you were a teenager or a young adult, when you made this mistake or experienced this kind of trauma, or that person is already mature. That person has already evolved. We need to be willing to trust in our sort of own real-time discernment, our ability to respond to any new situation based on what we have already gained. And this is sort of where this whole sort of true self authenticity aspect comes in. Too many of us still live a life that is no longer authentic to us. We think we have to because, of our society or because of our role understanding or because of all. These are all just mental agreements, guys, and these are all outdated. For the most part, okay, our values in our society and especially in our relationships are extremely outdated. They are no longer applicable. None of what was there before can be applied to what is coming now. I've done many, many forecasts, you know this, and this is all happening in real time right now, guys. There is no, let me see how to deal with transhumanism. Yeah, how to deal with robots that do all the manual labor. Let me see, how to deal with, AIs writing essays and love letters. No, but this is already happening. This isn't a prediction. Yeah, this isn't out there. This is already real time. So we need to learn to actually start trusting in this real-time navigator, the inner moral compass that we have formed by now. Our spiritual understanding that commands or shows us that underneath all physical manifestations, a spiritual process lies. Anything that has ever been invented or, came into our world as progress must have been conceived before, must have had some kind of thinking that was different than the thinking at the time. And we are now at a stage of collective human consciousness development where we all have the permission to do this, which is also the danger. We're living in a time where technically any aware person can manifest. The problem is not that we don't have the power to manifest. The problem is that we don't actually know what we're manifesting. And so I can only, sort of send this impulse to you to question your way of thinking, to question the forms that you are thinking. If you are manifesting thought structures that are based on fear, on a war, or even, these aspects of transhumanism that I mentioned, is that it shouldn't be anything scary for you. It's all part of our natural development to learn how to master technological progress. And in the future, we will have mastered that. Yes, we're going to have to go through some mistakes, like always. But if your thought forms are based on fear, then you are contributing to the group of people that manifest, all these fear-based scenarios. If you, however, choose to, just basically liberate yourself from the mold and say, you know what, I'm choosing to see the bigger picture here. And the bigger picture, is all these natural rhythms that we can see. All these cosmic and earthbound forces that are so much larger than we are. And if I look into the mechanisms of manifestation, in the nature world, in the cosmic world, okay, what I see is constant evolution, constant improvement, constant evolving into a higher version. Why should we, as one of the most complex, if not the most complex and most conscious material being, be an exception? On the contrary, we are the only being that is bestowed with consciousness and therefore the ability to co-create right from birth. We just have to learn how to master that. And that is where we're all stuck right now, guys. Because what we are currently manifesting, is war, is disconnect, is all these things, hostility, separation. We're talking about equanimity, inclusion, and all these things. But no, our thought forms are still based on old-time thinking. War. Being better than the other. That's exclusion. Making more. Letting other people work for you. Letting your money work for you. This is all old-time thinking, guys. You're not going to be able to, really grow with this larger evolutionary process if you are not changing your thinking structure along with it. So this is sort of the core of the issue for all of us right now, is to be able to imagine ourselves, to create something new. That's what we are so afraid of. And the impulse that is coming in here very, very strongly right now during this equinox, is to first, at this very moment, in real time, find the equilibrium. Stand right between your conflict and identify what your conflict is. Identify what these extremes that are so irreconcilable, seemingly irreconcilable within you are. Stand there. For today, tomorrow, next couple of days. All right, so that you better understand what it is that you need to overcome. It's not the same for everyone, okay? But for most of us spiritually interested and spiritually aware people, it has to do with us embodying, integrating our spiritual understanding into our day-to-day life. It has to do with stepping into action and not sitting there and waiting. If you sit there and all you got to do is look around, the majority of people are currently dominated by thought forms of fear and anger. If you sit there and wait, okay, then that's sort of the wave that you're going to be swept away by. You're going to just be pulled into this and be part of that kind of future. But at the same time, and this is the cool thing about this sort of equinox impulse right now, is that when you stand, it's like a seesaw, right? When you stand right in the middle and you can hold the balance, just for a little bit, and you see the whole thing and you see how it's flip-flopping and, what your inner conflicts are. That's like the perfect breeding ground for something new. Because there's no example. There's nothing that it can compare with. So my personal call to all of you, based on this session and what I'm reading in your energies, is go for it. Go for the ideas that you have, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. Nobody can compare you with anything because it hasn't been there before. I'm old enough, to know how these cycles are. I've watched them happen, whether it was personal computers, internet, smartphones, cryptos, okay? It's always the same cycles. They just go faster now. You, as a spiritually interested person, as someone who has sort of the inner impulse already there, and with it also the imagery, okay, you are right on that next wave. That next wave, the new future, is the spiritual person, the person that can integrate spirituality into their day-to-day life without feeling like they have to hide it or they have to be inauthentic or afraid. Yeah, the spiritually upright person that can say, yes, I believe in a higher power. I believe in God. I believe in Christ, or I believe in whatever. I name the higher power. And that is what guides me. Okay, and that is my moral compass. That's the person that creates, that has the strongest manifestation power right now, because that's where all of the cosmic forces are guiding us to it. And even things such as the political turmoil, the things like with the pandemic and so forth, all these things that are influencing our global societies right now in a seemingly negative way. All they do is strengthen that resolve in us. Yeah, they show us something. And that is that we need to learn to rely on that inner impulse that we're already feeling, but that we are too scared, to put into action. Oh, but I feel so alone, and oh, there's so few people out there. No, there's not. But for as long as we're still pretending we're like old-time people, right? We're like going with the conforming with the world, how this pretend world, okay? How would they be able to find you? Have you ever started a movement? Okay, all it takes is two. All right, if you feeling the impulse, you want to start something, say it out loud, say, hey, I want to do this. Who wants to join me? And that's how you find others. That's how you engage. That's how you feel connected. This whole theme of March, belongingness, has to do with us actually wanting to belong and not sitting there and waiting for somebody to discover us or, to rescue us or something like that. These notions, these notions were programmed into you. This is the barrier. You need to be willing to imagine that you are the creator of your new future, the co-creator, let's say, because there's also other aspects such as karma and so forth involved that are a little bigger laws, than just your mind. But the big danger here in March is also, and especially the next 2 weeks, is to drift off into fantasy, is to drift off into just sort of wishful thinking. This is not what I'm talking about, guys. I'm talking about following through on this inner impulse that you have. And gosh, all I can say is you'll feel it in your body. And I'm 100% sure that you guys know it. It's a trembling. It's where all words fail us. It's like a hunger, like a thirst in you. Yeah. To wanting to live that. And that's what you need to follow. That's your real-time compass, guys. Yeah, with your spiritual identity, with you claiming that you are a spirit being that is having a physical incarnation, you are claiming your freedom to do this. You got the driver's license, as I've called it so many times. Yeah, you're allowed to go out there and drive your vehicle. Okay, so go do. Yeah, you have your driver's license now. Go drive it. Drive your life. Yeah. So this is basically the impulse here for this equinox based on our group here, on our session, but also in connection with current collective energies. We need to be honest with ourselves here. We need to look at what is holding us back. There are some questions that we can ask ourselves. For me personally, the best or the fastest way to move myself forward is the question, well, what would I do if there was no resistance? What would I do? And the resistance could be anything. What would I do if I was in a different relationship? What would I do if I had a different job? What would I do if I had more money? What would I do if I had more friends that think or feel the way I do? What would I do if there was no barrier? Yeah, and if that's still a little sort of wishy-washy for you or unclear, well, you can work this, of course, with yourself. It's more effective if you actually start talking to other people about it. Asking them questions. What will you do? I'm working on this question and I'm not sure how to answer it. What comes up for you? Yeah, like this is how you start a spiritual conversation. As a matter of fact, I've made a list of 25 questions to start a spiritual conversation with others. I think I'm going to record a video for you guys, spiritual conversation starters, okay? Because so many of you still have such a hard time. Yeah, just let go of all the New Age lingo or all the sort of the heavy lingo. Let's just let go of it. Just move into a state of authenticity with everything. Yeah, that's what I feel. I can feel it in my body. Yes, this is what comes up, when I feel into this. And that's enough. You don't have to have good reasons or justifications for it. That's you driving your vehicle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you need assistance with this, you can always, of course, book a session with me or join one of my courses. Like right now, we're starting the spiritual biography course on March 25th, which is, right on time. It's a 6-week course where we, sort of roll it all back and start from the beginning and try to read our own life's wisdom through our biography, and as a result then sort of form a new picture of our future. So go check my website at transcodes.com, if this is interesting for you. Spiritual biography. So this is not just about the past. There's only really 2-3 weeks are about the past, and then we move into the future, and that's where it gets really, really interesting. But anyway, yeah, so did I forget anything? Cindy, you're here to remind me of some of the other impulses that we felt during the session.
The thinking part is really what the challenge that came in for me was. We can feel this in our bodies, and we are excited about it. And then when it comes down to, okay, asking the question, what are you going to do? Then it's like, well, I'm going to...
what would you do if there was no resistances or if there was no issues?
Yes, because we're so programmed from all of our past experiences, coming up with a new thought, it's going to take work. But challenge everybody, challenge yourself to do it. So that's what kind of came up for me.
You just like literally highlighting and underlining
Exactly
the challenge is wonderful. Yeah, I mean we did. There was a progression during the session, like right around the 45-minute mark, if I remember this right. There was a shift. There was a bunch of releases there in the field, and as if there was a sort of something plopped there.
Yeah.
Right. Remember that? It was different kinds of releases, anything from burps or heat coming up or yawning or, those are all energetic releases. It shows you, how much tension you were holding in your body through the way of thinking, through, the emotions that sort of get stuck there. So equilibrium always means to balance things out, to find that middle ground. And if you find yourself in a place where you're sort of holding breath white-knuckled and you're trying to just, like force yourself through something, take a time out, guys. Take a moment, to release all that and trust. Become a real-time human. Trust in your inner compass. There is no outer structure right now that could tell you which direction to take. You are your own driver now. Okay, and that doesn't mean that we can't drive together. Okay, we can all, do this together. We can all find together, but we have to be authentic. Yeah, we have to come out of the woodwork. Yeah, that we can't pretend, to be a normal, rational person, in and deep inside of us, see the world through a more spiritual lens. We have to learn now to bring this into, our everyday life, to make that a part of what we are, like sort of expressing on a day-to-day basis, even with our words, especially with our words, guys. Yeah, remember the Lao Tzu proverb, Yeah, watch your words, because the words are ultimately, the energy that makes you become your words. So there's a bit of precision, and I like, Cindy, how you emphasize that it's work. It is work, because it is in the words of our thinking. A lot of times, actually, in the words of our thinking, that we limit ourselves. So sometimes, we can make big changes by making small changes to the way we talk to ourselves. Yeah, soften things up, and go away from this all good, all bad, like the judgment and the black and whiteness of things. Yeah, and talk to ourselves more in the way of things appear this way, or based on my perception right now, the way I see things is blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so these things help your thinking structure to soften up and therefore also be more receptive. But the main part here is that you become willing, okay, to take all that you are now and go out with that, and to respond to whatever comes your way in real time. Yeah, in real time. No insurance policies. Insurances are scams. No, just joking, but not. Yeah. You are the driver. You need to learn to rely on yourself, and that is a wonderful spiritual lesson, because it allows us to evolve into this higher self, that is fully aware of its co-creative powers. Our higher self already knows that. But we are sort of catching up to that. So I hope that this was a good impulse for you. Do we have questions or comments? Would you like to add anything to this session recording?
Hi, Jona.
Hi, Sean.
Mine's a question, but also look, I've tried to create movements before, and I felt that instantaneous, I don't know, it's a shift, but then it hasn't really worked out
Okay.
in the
How has
past.
it worked? Like you only got one or two people interested?
No, I mean, it wasn't that. I just couldn't find the right collaborators that really wanted to share in the vision and work together. It
Okay.
was always about specialness, and
Okay. Yeah, that's what
I
we
don't.
all have to work through. It's a big
I
challenge.
mean, it is a big challenge, but I'm still so willing, but still so triggered by my family stuff.
Well, your family stuff is all the past, okay? And if you want your future to be like your past, then so be it. If you want your future to be different, you have to let go of it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's as simple as that. I know this sounds harsh. Yeah, we can, of course, go into the depths of the psychology of it, and we do need to. This is part of our spiritual responsibility, is to educate ourselves. Yeah, to educate ourselves on anatomy, yeah, for the right nutrition and movement and so forth, to educate ourselves on psychology, to understand, like, okay, what is the bind here? Why does this have such a strong grip on me? Yeah, and gradually learn to work ourselves out of it. We need to spiritually educate ourselves, okay, because, in the past, spirituality was sort of unbridled, just fantasy land, okay? Yeah, so we need to educate ourselves a little bit more on, spiritual science. And lastly, and this is the biggest challenge, we need to educate our thinking. We need to move into more sober thinking. Yeah, so there's this element of the words that we're using, because they also sort of influence, it's a two-way street, the way we are thinking, and then the way we're thinking is influencing our words. A lot of times, this was also an aspect of this session, it has to do with the communication. Okay? So, when it comes to like the psychological part with, inner child stuff and so forth, that's our job to work through that. Yeah, and at some point we got to accept that that's part of our karmic predisposition, if you will, and trust that our higher self knew what it was doing here by putting us into that sort of family constellation. And instead of going against it or getting bound to it, ask yourself, what could my higher self possibly want me to learn from this? What is the lesson here? What is the theme throughout, my childhood trauma and all that, came out of it? Yeah, and then you know what the barrier is. It's not the people involved. It's not about them. It's about what aspects they brought into your life so that you could gain wisdom through them being in your life. So it's the same with starting movements. It's not really about, how many members or whatever you have or how many likes. It's not about that. It's about, putting yourself out there in a sober, in a pure form and say, this is, what I experience as a problem. This could be a local problem, or this could be a, whatever level that movement is like. I can, referring to, I can give you a few tips that if you serve your local community, if you pick a topic that is relatable for other people, yeah, let's say, helping kids or helping elderly people or helping nature or, something that other people can relate to, you have a much higher chance, okay, of attracting people with that same or similar moral compass that you have. Yeah, all the things that are basically good for all of us. Yeah, you have a higher chance of attracting collaborators, as you called it. Yeah, people who agree with you. Maybe it's okay to start small. Yeah, and not so special reason. Maybe that's why, Sean. Maybe the reason was too special. Yeah.
It was.
I
Thank
started the
you.
movement when I was like 17 years old with collecting trash on my street. Collecting dog poop. Yeah. And then all of a sudden everybody did it. Okay. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. That's also how we can bring goodness, how we can bring beauty, how we can bring more truth into this world. Any other questions?
I just wanted to wish Matthew a happy, happy birthday.
Hey, is it your birthday today, Matthew? Haha, I know somebody else is tomorrow. Okay.
Well, about 6 hours from now. No, 4
Oh,
hours.
Okay, well then I'm wishing you a super happy pre-birthday. Wonderful. Now, what a great way of sort of ushering your new year for yourself. Yeah, it's a wonderful impulse. Okay, the only danger, especially since you're like a little Aries boy, then not to storm forward too blindly. To stay in the inner equinox, in that little sort of equilibrium that we're trying to find, that eye of the storm, for a little bit longer. Yeah, give it another week. Yeah, I know that you are already involved in community projects, so you're on the right track, Matthew. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for spending this time, your time, okay, with engaging in, we're participating and engaging with your true self. That is what it ultimately comes down to. Yeah, even if it's just that. Actively engaging, participating, sharing, and exchanging. Yeah, that is what will lead you to your new future, and your real-time self, yeah, will handle the barriers fully. We'll handle it for you. Just trust it. I love you guys. See you very soon. Bye-bye.